Welcome to Seat Time, everybody, the off-road show that brings you all the results, news, and online shenanigans that make being online a good time. We'd like to say thank you to Fly Racing for their support of Seat Time. Please go check them out at flyracing.com. Welcome to Seat Time, everybody. Brian Pierce here, your host for the evening, Tuesday night, as always, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. I mean, it's 8:01, so that's pretty professional for us. I have no idea if everything's actually going to work this evening, but if it does, damn it, that's going to be awesome. Somebody's going to get a pat on the back for that. So welcome to Seat Time. Seat Time is the online show for the off-road enthusiasts. If you enjoy riding your dirt bike, racing your dirt bike, drinking a bunch of beers, and possibly just talking about how much you enjoy riding your dirt bike, this is probably even more for the show of the latter folks. So thank you for tuning in. If you are live, make sure you go ahead and share out the link so other people can tune in and enjoy us. We would really, really appreciate that. If you're just so happen to be archived or listening to the podcast, do the same thing. Be like, holy shit, these guys are funny. They talk about motorcycles. Brian's face is not cute. Look how goofy he is. Whatever it is, you should probably talk about us and make sure that you share our greatness or our lack of greatness, either one of those. Seat Time is brought to you by the fine folks over at Fly Racing. You can find out more about them at flyracing.com. Stillwell Performance, of course, stillwellperformance.com. And actually, they just updated their website today, so you can go check that out. And Flex Bars at Fast Company, which we now have a sign. Woo! Technically, I'm giving the sign's balls a nice little... So that sign should be happy for at least the next 5 minutes until it gets blue balls and then gets pissed off and slaps me on the back of the head. We're going to see what happens. That sign could get really pissed off. So we do archive everything on the site, seattime.co. You can find us on Stitcher or iTunes if you just want to get the audio. And you just go search for it, Seat Time, 2 words, and to hit the subscribe. Bam! It's that easy. One last thing, bit of house cleaning. We did release last week the 1987 Suzuki SP200 time-lapse build from the Baja Rally. That is on YouTube. Go to our YouTube channel, check it out, and watch that. It's not even 2 minutes long. It's super fun for you guys to enjoy that. And we do have more coming out at the end of this week. Of course, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, it gives you a chance just to be updated when we update it. So look for that later in this week. One of the big things that happened this past weekend that I wanted to talk about, super, super excited, is that we are getting more and more sprint enduros in the United States. This year alone, we've seen 3. One that happened in the Northwest, one that happened in the Northeast with the J-Day Sprint Enduro, and one that just happened this past weekend in, I guess you want to call it the Southeast, in Union, South Carolina at the Big Buck property, which is typical for the GNCC event that's held out there, which Steven and I were lucky enough to attend earlier this year in April. But it was put on by none other than Jason Hooper, owner and contributor and greatness aficionado of digitaloffroad.com. Does a lot of stuff with GNCC. I want to say this is his first go at being promoter. So it's going to be cool not just to talk more about the fact that we're getting more sprint enduros, how is this format going to evolve here in the States, but to get a lot from Jason Hooper on what it feels to be a first-time promoter, some of the highs, some of the lows, how many pats on the back does it take versus pats on the butt. It's like pep up versus pep down. It could get weird. So let's just jump into it. Mr. Jason Hooper, let's just ask it. How is your evening going, kind sir?
Oh, it's going pretty good, man.
Yeah?
I'm home. I'm not living in a field in South Carolina in my motorhome right now. So I got to take a shower and a real shower and sleep in my bed last night. So yeah, I'm doing great.
Yeah, that's like a step up. So how long were you out on the property in your RV?
I got there Tuesday morning before the race.
Okay, so that's
not
a
really
week.
That long, but long enough when you're working your butt off every day. That's plenty.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've found out now that my dad has an RV is when you're dirty and nasty and grimy, the RV seems to kind of pick up on that. And as you the next day after day after day, it just like you're like this isn't clean. This is nasty. You just don't. So when you get a chance to get out of the RV and clean it and everything, you're just kind of like, I am home. And if the home could be nasty, but you're like, fuck yes.
Yeah, well, because like you're taking RV showers because we didn't have hookups or anything. So it's like you get wet, you lather up, you rinse off, and that's it because you got to make sure you conserve your water. So you're dirtier than you've ever been in your whole life, and you got to take the shortest shower with the least amount of water possible. It's a bad scenario.
Yeah, that's when you do the cat bath and you just wet the rag and you kind of floss your butt crack to your balls, and that's like that's like the dirtiest part for me. I'm not gonna lie. So, I mean, I would imagine any other man, but we'll see. So that's not dirt bikes. We'll talk about my cleaning of my what is the Choda region later in the show. So I think we should also say, one, I'm glad that you're up and walking, because earlier this year, I want to say it was in May, was it the Mountaineer where you got like taken out at the GNCCs?
Yeah, I got cleaned out. It was May 25th
To the
of
day.
this year. Yeah, yeah. I won't forget that one. Trust me.
I mean, were you just there on the side of the track and it was just one of those racing accidents where, a quad just made it to the outside and took a bunch of people out?
Yeah, they Chris Borch and Walker Fowler kind of came together a little bit. Borch's right front wheel rode over top of Fowler's left rear wheel, and it just shot him off to the side real quick. So yeah, I was filming, and when you've got your face in a camera, your perspective on things isn't usually the greatest. And yeah, so I have the footage of it still, and it was like just a little over a second between when they hit and then he hit me. So there wasn't a whole lot I could do about it. It was just one of those things. So definitely sucked. But
was it just as intimidating as when you got taken out by Paul Wibley, or less intimidating?
Well, it happened so much faster. Like, I saw Wibbs coming and I thought he wasn't going to hit me. So, yeah. So, I wasn't really that scared before Wibbs hit me. And this one, it happened, but like this one happened so fast, I didn't really know it was coming until it was like, oh crap, there's a quad coming at me. And the next thing I know, my leg was broken. So
yeah, you're on the ground
it was
writhing pain.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
And then congrats on your daughter, Macy, turning a year. I mean, you've kept a human alive for an entire year. That's a hell of an accomplishment. I know. I've done it twice, strangely enough.
2 times, right? Yeah. Yeah, I'd say the most of the credit goes to my wife, yeah, it's crazy because like tomorrow is actually her birthday. So it was 10 o'clock, 365 days ago. We're an hour away from when her water broke. So it's pretty crazy. Other days you'll never forget in your life, right?
Yeah, that is for sure, man. That is true. But we'll talk about all the actual things that happen in childbirth on, again, that's our Thursday night show. That's where things get really weird. But quickly, how was the cake smashing? Did you guys do a cake smashing? How did that go?
Yeah, we did. Well, I don't know how your kids did with it, but I think she was so weirded out by 30 people standing around staring at her.
Yep.
That it took she's a pig. She eats like crazy all the time, and she just wants to eat everything. And then she was like tiptoeing and putting a finger in and looking at like, am I supposed to be doing this? Like, why isn't anybody telling me no? And then finally she got into it, and then she was freaking wired for the next 2 hours, on the sugar high. So
yep.
It was awesome. I mean, it was cool. Yeah, it was a great way to unwind from last weekend, just relax and stuff. So it was good.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, it does seem weird that's kind of the way that it works out. I really think that it's exactly what you said. They're all the kids are like, wait a minute. Typically, I would be yelled at and told no if I try to play with my food, and now they are literally taking my hand and putting it on this cake, and it's like,
yeah,
I don't get it, Dad. I just don't get it. Well, so we just had our first ever Kenda full gas sprint enduro put on by you, owner of digitaloffroad.com.
Right.
I think going back on Facebook, I remember the Facebook page kind of going live June 26th. How long before that has this been in the works? And I guess like not maybe as, ooh, I think I kind of almost want to do this, but like trigger has been pulled, we are moving forward kind of. When did that begin?
I don't have an exact date, but it was probably Steel Creek GNCC-ish time. So beginning of April or something, I was like, all right, I'm doing this for sure. And then it was just a matter of finding out where I wanted to do it and sorting out a date. So it was definitely later than it probably should have been. And I guess a lot of that had to do with trying to convince my wife that it was a good idea. So, so I finally convinced her that like we need to do this. We got to try it, right? So yeah, it was a long time in the making, man. It definitely takes some serious time, to get it rolling. But yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, and I know like in the video that you guys put out, you talked to the fact that it's like back to 2012 when we went to Germany at the ISDE. You were talking about the racing there that you saw. Was that your first real introduction to that kind of sprint style enduro racing that they do for the ISDE? Or you probably seen it in videos, but that might have been your first
Right.
time in person.
Yeah, that was definitely the first time I'd ever seen it in person. Yeah, like, I watched the videos of the 6 days and World Enduro Championship all the time, and you think it's kind of cool, but you don't really get it
Yeah,
and until you're there and you see it in person. And I mean, honestly, the FIM doesn't do the greatest job with some of their videos. I don't think displaying how cool that stuff is.
right.
So yeah, I mean, you were with me, so I mean, it was a pretty eye-opening experience for me when you see that stuff, like, because you don't see 3-4 mile grass tracks with ribbon the whole way, or 4 mile woods enduro tests with both sides ribbon in the United States anywhere.
Yeah,
So
nope.
you're
There
like,
is.
holy
Yeah, we don't
crap.
have ribbon racing. That's kind of like what I've heard it called a couple times by some Euros and stuff like that. And so, Jonty Edmond, you talked to him. I did not actually know when we were meeting him and chatting with him and stuff like that he was the kind of proprietor and promoter of the British Sprint Enduro series. So, what was his kind of was he just full-fledged for it, like you have to do it in the States, or was he like, these are the pitfalls if you do it, watch out for this?
No, he didn't give me many pitfalls. So we later we've talked a lot, and he's been hugely instrumental in helping me out. But back then, I mean, he just kind of was giving me the gist of it and saying, there's no reason that this can't work
Yeah.
in the U.S. That this is something that could work. We didn't talk back then about trying to explain it to people, because that was probably the biggest challenge I've faced. Is everybody's like, "What's a sprint enduro?"
Yeah.
And then obviously in the United States, at least especially on this coast, people think of an enduro, it has to be 13-mile tests, and if it's not single track the whole way, then it's blasphemy.
It's not
So
off
when you
road.
say right, yeah. So if you say enduro and you say the trail's 8 feet wide, and there's a grass track that's pretty much just a moto track with that hasn't been disced up and doesn't have huge jumps, that people don't think it's enduro. So I mean, yeah. So I guess that's one of the things there.
Oh, yeah. Didn't mention the chat room, actually, if anybody's watching live right now that wants to get in there, tlk.io/seat time. Great way to get in there and interact with the show. Mark Cook is in there right now asking some good questions. We're going to definitely get to that. So if you have questions for Jason, myself, or just random stuff that you want us to chat about, get on in there and do it. He wants to know, what does your wife think now that you guys are home and it's over? Still too early?
She's yeah, yeah, she's a little up in the air about it right now. Yeah, she ended up working scoring for about 8 hours Saturday and Sunday, so she didn't have the best experience on race weekend. So, and we won't even get into the financial aspect of it.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah, so
Well,
so
I mean, we
she
may, but
no, we could, but yeah,
no, I'm kidding.
yeah. So she's not super thrilled on it right now. But
You know what's funny?
she hasn't told. I haven't got a no yet. So
Yeah. What's interesting is my parents, for the longest time, they would my dad was an Arkansas dirt rider, so they would help put on the Train Robbers Enduro, which they also did the National a couple years, which was that horrible mutter. They would always celebrate their wedding anniversary on the weekend of that Enduro. Like, that's just when it always fell. So the first thing my dad would always say at the riders meeting was like, "Hey, thanks everybody for coming out to help my wife and I celebrate our wedding anniversary." It's interesting how, like, we are very cautious about to make sure we spend the right amount of time with our wives, and when we give them the due diligence for the important dates for them. But when it comes to weird stuff like that, if we ask nice and we like, they'll know how much it really means to us. And that, sometimes it's just kind of like they're willing to sit behind the table for hours on end and do that kind of stuff just because they know that help supports us so much in those little things. So it's cool that she was so open to that and willing to help out.
Yeah. I mean, she got all the registration packets ready and entered everybody into the database, and yeah, just did whatever she could to help out. And unfortunately for her, it ended up being backup scoring, which is probably the worst job I think there could be.
Yep, I've been there multiple times at a couple Toro seasons where it's like everything's electronic, but just in case electronic goes downhill, you got to have some kind of a backup. So
yeah.
I would say in the sprint enduro world, from the little different series that are out there, there are some hair differences when it comes to format, length of tests, how many tests you're going to have, how many times maybe you're going to run those tests. So when it came down to format for you, as this kind of test weekend came about, how did you really decide on format, rules, lengths, and things like that?
Yeah, a lot of it was just talking to riders, talking to team managers and stuff like that, and getting an idea, because unfortunately it's hard to do things in the States exactly the way things are done overseas. Like for the British Sprint Enduro Championship, they do one test. That's it. One test, and they run it over and over and over like 6-7 times a day, and then they reverse it for the second day, but that's it. They don't have two tests. And in Australia on their sprint days, they take their cross-country track and split it in half, and they clubmen ride one side, the pros ride the other, but it's still just one test. So
is that because of land? Do you know why that is? Is that because of land or because of promoter?
I don't know for sure, but I think it's a little bit of both, because obviously if you have to lay out 6 miles of track or 8 miles of track, it's a lot more work and you need a lot more space. And I know one of the good things about a sprint enduro is that you don't need the hunk of land that you would for another enduro. So I think it goes a little bit of both. I don't think it's the cut and dry answer there, but
right. Okay. No, yeah, for sure.
But and so things over there have kind of, they're more established, and sometimes people just go with the status quo. Like if this is how you do it, and then okay, that's fine. I'm cool with that. But the problem is with one test, if you get a couple hundred riders or 300 riders, the delay, the reset time ends up being longer. So, I talked to Auntie at KTM, and I talked to a bunch of pro riders, and, they were all really concerned about like the reset time. And
right.
I think a lot of
it,
right. And then I talked to Jonty, and he's like, yeah, man, the reset can be 45 minutes. And I was like, nobody complains? He's like, no, we don't say anything. I'm like, well, hell, people are complaining to me, and I haven't even done it yet, just talking about the idea.
Yeah.
So I got enough feedback that made me think that if we're going to do it, we're going to do 2 tests, because, I think it was that way I could ease those guys' mind, right? We're going to have 2 tests. We can cut the reset time down, and, and that kind of opens you up. I didn't know how many riders we were going to get.
Yeah.
If you get 500 riders or something, you've got one test, it's going to be probably not so good. So
ridiculous. That would be ridiculous.
Yeah. So that gave us the flexibility that if we got a huge turnout, we could run both tests at the same time, start them at the same time, and the resets aren't going to be something ridiculous. So
what did the resets kind of turn into for guys out there? Say the pros. We'll just go off of that.
It probably turned into something about 40 minutes, 45 minutes is what the reset ended up turning into be. And it wasn't the original plan, but we kind of ended up having to roll with it because we ended up having some scoring issues. But at the end of the day, nobody complained.
Right.
So I think that's just one of the things that you needed to get people out to try it. So once we got through that first day, no one complained. And then so like the first day we told them the reset was going to be 20 or 30 minutes, and we just needed to get through the first few tests. And then things got a little bit shaky. So we stretched it out to make sure that we could try and get the scoring stuff back on track. And then so the next day I just said, we're going to start on the hour every hour. So they ride for 10 minutes or whatever. And then, have 45 minutes, 40 minutes or something in between tests before they got back into staging. And then we got everything going again. So,
yeah.
Yeah, that's what we ended up doing.
All right. No, that's cool. What about spectator turnout? Because that to me seems like such a great pull for spectators? This more of a sprint enduro where you've got these shorter tests. You know, we look at J-Day where they've got like a mile to 2 mile max track, and then, you know, they've got tons of people out there watching. So for you, like, what was your spectator pull like? Do you feel like you had a good spectator turnout?
Oh, no. Our
No?
spectator turnout was awful.
Okay.
Yeah, I was pretty. That was probably the biggest thing I was disappointed about over the weekend was we didn't get a huge turnout, and that was one of the reasons that I picked the Big Buck location because it's one of the bigger spectator turnouts for the GNCC. Not the biggest. I mean, the land is perfect for this type of racing. So that was like a added bonus was that the potential to have a massive turnout, and we hit all the same media channels and, you know, flyers and everything that they do. You know, I printed like 200 flyers that were put out around that town and everything, and we didn't draw the numbers, and
Yeah.
I think again it's just people just don't know that they would have seen so much more action than they would at a typical hare scramble type event.
Right.
But I mean it is what it is, man. You know, you kind of hope for the best on the spectator thing, but I think once people see the video and the people that were there, you know, getting to go out into the grass track and watch and see them come this way 1 minute, and you can watch them for a while because you got line of sight, and then they come back the other way, and then that test's over, and you've got time to walk over to the next test, find your spot, and watch them. So I mean, it's like spectator wise, it's hard to beat. You know, besides like enduro cross, or a J-Day, I don't think there's any way to make it something off-road more spectator friendly, really.
Yeah. So when it comes down to rider turnout, like how did you feel about the rider turnout, and how many pros did you have versus amateurs or vice versa?
So we had 10 pros.
Okay.
But they were pretty good pros.
Oh yeah, no, there were no slouches.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we had a privateer. You know what I mean? Like everybody has some sort of a ride pretty much on there. We had 3 out of the 4 ISD junior team members, 2 guys on the trophy team, 2 guys on the Australian trophy team. So I mean, like, it was pretty stacked pro class. So
yeah,
the rider turnout was low, but we were up against 2 local series. The Mid-East and North Carolina hare scrambles were both running this weekend. So I knew the rider turnout wouldn't be huge, but in all honesty, I didn't really want it to be a massive event because this is the first time
it's hard to test the water when you got 500 riders. You know, it's like
right. I mean, and it was stressful enough as it was, and I mean, I wouldn't have minded a few more. I think 150 was like my goal, and I think we had 117 paid or something like that, roughly. So we were close. I mean, I think that's a respectable number.
Right.
I've seen some bigger series that have been running for years and years and years that have had less than that this year. So I don't know, to do something brand new that probably 90% of the people that showed up didn't really completely understand what they were getting into.
Right. Yeah.
To get 100 and some people to show up, I'm happy with it. And in hindsight too, the way things ended up working out, I'm glad we didn't get any more because I think maybe people would have been upset because like I said, we had a little bit of issues on the scoring side, and so I think it was good.
Cool. We talked a little bit about the test and how you had 2, and maybe some of the other series only have 1, and how that I think you're going the right direction by trying to at least have 2. So you had a cross test and a woods test. Did I get the names right? Cross test and a woods test.
Cross test, grass track, whatever you want to, like. I mean, over in Europe they would call it the cross test, and they'd call the other one an enduro test. But,
right. So let's talk about those 2 and how they differ. I think you talked about a little bit in your FAQs on your website, some of the media stuff that you put up, but just so we've got a good differentiation here, tell me about those 2 tests, and then let's talk a little bit too about what changes we might make in the future now that you've done the event.
Okay, so the cross test is basically a grass track test, and it's pretty much like just a big old like honking moto track, but not many jumps, and it's all grass. So our test was almost exactly 3 miles long. And I think there was 0.2 of a mile that was in the woods, and that was just because of the layout of the property. We had to connect through some woods from one field to the other. I mean, So they weren't in the woods for very long. So staked on both sides, ribbon the whole way. We did build a couple jumps. We built a ski jump down a hill and a little double jump and a couple other like rollers and stuff, so you could get a little hang time and do some fun stuff like that. But yeah, so it was fast. It was pretty fast, pretty flowing, and it was good. And so the enduro test was I didn't GPS the whole thing after we made a couple of changes, so it was probably pretty close to 3.5 miles, and it ranged. We didn't have any like what you would call true single track. Most of it was. I mean, we drove a bulldozer on some of it. We could drive a Bobcat on almost all of it, and then we had a bunch of. I probably had, I don't know, half a mile to 3/4 of a mile of fresh cut. That was just stuff. I went through the woods that hadn't been run there, and ran ribbon. Um, so and it had a little bit of grass track on it too, just to get back to the finish, to get into the woods, get back to the finish from the woods. But so it was cool. I thought the woods loop was sick. I mean, we ran some GNCC trail, some trail that there was left there from a national enduro, some trail that we made on our own. Yeah.
Uh-oh. Oh, go ahead. Looks like it might take a minute for him to catch up with the hiccup. So
In the last couple of years.
go
So you don't want.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you were getting jumpy for a second, so I was like, "Uh-oh," but keep going.
Oh yeah, well, that's the beauty of living in a place where I can only get DSL. So sorry about that.
Oh
But
no, you're fine, man. So
yeah, so I was just saying that we freshened up the stuff that had been run before.
Yeah.
So we ran some equipment over it. So if you had raced the GNCC or you had raced the National Enduro, the trail wasn't exactly the same.
right.
So it was good. I mean, I thought it was fun. I mean, if you watch the GoPro, I thought it was.
Oh no, the
I mean,
GoPro made me want to ride. That's exactly what
Yeah.
it should do. It could kind of give you that amplitude. You're just like, oh my gosh, this looks awesome, which it did. The creek jump. Is it intimidating and as big as it looked in person? Because on the camera, like I saw some angles of it where I was like, oh shit, yeah, third gear, wide open, just up. But like, on other sides, I'm kind of like, then you kind of see a little bit more of a sideways angle. You're like, oh my god, that's intense. Like that's a big one. Like how was that in reality?
I didn't think it was that bad, man. You know how it is. Sometimes stuff looks bigger than it really is, and the fact that you can't roll it, like if it was on a motocross track and you could and everybody could have rolled down the middle of it and then kind of felt it out,
Yeah.
I'd say 95% of the people would have jumped it because it really wasn't that big. But the creek's pretty intimidating, and it's where that part of the creek, it was a little bit like there was a pretty big difference between where the creek bottom was and the top of the jump. So
Right.
I said the top of the jump was probably like 8 feet or something from the creek bottom. So it was probably a little bit intimidating, but I mean, we built a pretty decent downside and a pretty decent lip. So I don't think it was just too bad.
Was that the one that Grant Baylor biffed it on?
Yes, Grant biffed it on. Yeah, big time. He's the only person that crashed. So tell me how that makes any sense. Like, I was a little nervous about doing that kind of stuff, because you have people of all ability level out there, and like I'd hate, or an older guy or something like.
Those two together. I think we should change that, Mark Cook. If you're still watching tonight, we need to change that up. That's wrong.
Yeah, so we did the same. I think it was. I counted, and I ended up counting because we needed to adjust the time because there was a bunch of pros coming after Grant had crashed, and Charlie Mullins was pretty close behind him, and Grant's bike was still laying in the middle of the track.
Yeah.
So we had to send Charlie, Trevor Bollinger, and Stu around the jump, and so we were timing it. And I think it was 7 seconds longer to go around the jump than to take it.
Right.
So I mean, for the average amateur, it wasn't enough where like you're not.
Oh no.
Hey, am I back?
Yeah, you're there. Apparently, I don't. Yeah, Steven was just kind of like giving me a heads up that it seemed like things were getting a little finicky, but we think it's on our end, so it's not you. Don't even worry. It's one of those situations where we love it if we could buy some form of a business package. So like it's like, hey, AT&T or whoever, we want to pay you X amount of money and always have this kind of great service. But because of the fact that no one will do that, we sometimes come into nights like this where probably somebody's downloading, some new porn. And so they're
Right.
torrenting, and our whole neighborhood's getting throttled for some reason. So
Right.
it's unfortunate. So Steven, what is it looking like to you?
Says it's good in YouTube. Appears to be showing up here. Bandwidth says it's crap here.
Well, YouTube was good last time, so let's just keep rolling with it. We'll see what happens. Is that wine?
Wine
Yeah. What was that?
for me?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, all right. Well, let's see what happens. Now spotty again. One day I'm gonna find somebody that can sell us good internet, and I can stop having a headache over this kind of stuff. So, changes for next year. Now that we've kind of talked about the tests that you put together and what they were like and how people thought about them, what have you learned? Shorter, longer, more intense, less intense, more blue line, more woman line. What's what's the hot setup?
Dude, honestly, I didn't get I mean, and maybe I'll get some now. No one complained. So it was the craziest thing I've ever experienced in my life. I just knew people were going to complain about the track, or somebody was going to hate it. Some old guy was going to come and think he needed to have bark busters and was going to complain because it wasn't 100 miles a day or something like that. But
Right.
I didn't really. I mean, a couple guys on the we made a couple changes on the grass track during the race, because there was maybe there was a kicker in one of the straightaways, and some of the pro guys came and said that might be better if we got rid of it. It was just like a natural water break in the field that we were racing in.
Right.
So that was one of the benefits of the format. It's like, okay, we got through that first test. Nobody wanted it. All right, great. While we're running the second test, we'll run a piece of equipment out there and fix it. So I don't know, man. I think it worked out pretty perfectly. The length was good. I think that's what I wanted. I didn't want it to be a 2-minute grass track or something like that. I didn't want the test to be 10 minutes either, because I don't feel like I think that's starting to kind of get a little bit too long to be a true sprint. So I think we did a pretty good job on the test. Maybe could have made the grass track a little bit more technical, but I don't know. I don't think I would change too much.
Okay.
Honestly.
Cool. So a lot of it, like I had a couple of people in the chat room asking about the scoring software or equipment that you use. I know that Mark Cook is a promoter looking at possibly buying some scoring equipment, and maybe some others out there. So tell us a little bit about the equipment that you were using, and then I would doubt that the issues were related to the equipment, but what kind of issues were you having with scoring?
Okay. Well, we used the software we used was called J2 Chrono, and it's actually a guy in Finland that makes the software, and he actually used this software to score the 2011 ISDE. So I'm not a software guy,
Right.
but I don't think the issues that we ran into had anything to do with the software. We used the transponders that we used were the sticker type that they use at the National Enduros.
Yep.
Like, it's not the exact same, but very similar. And so some of the problems we had initially were people left their National Enduro transponders on their helmet, or stuck. Some people actually stuck our transponder on top of their National Enduro transponder, and so that created some issues. And so I think there was some. I don't completely understand, and these are the things that I've been told. So I mean, there were some people that did this and didn't have any issues, and some people that it didn't work. So those were the two of the initial issues that we had. I don't really know. The scoring thing was so touchy, man. I don't know. Like the scoring guy I don't know. He kind of freaked out, I think, and once the weekend got going on, and I didn't get a whole lot of great answers from him. So I know it didn't work. So as well as we had hoped, which is kind of a bummer. But
It and again, I wasn't there. I'm not saying anything bad, good, or indifferent about now that you've tried it, you've gone forward with it. You think, oh, I'm going to do another one. Do you try out a different scoring system, or do you say, you know what? I know that this was a first time thing. We were figuring stuff out. Let's use the same thing. I mean, I think I would probably choose somebody that's in the States, but I don't know if it's tough for.
yeah, well, the actual that's what's weird. It's like the guy who ran everything is the same guy who runs all the scoring for the GNCCs.
Okay, I thought I had heard that. Okay.
Right. So like that's why I hired him, because he said he could do it. He said it would be different software than they run at the GNCCs, because that software is pretty much made specifically for them. But I figured if this guy runs what's the software for pretty much the biggest off-road series in the country, he can't be that bad.
Yeah.
So I was wrong. I don't really know what else to say except for that. So yeah, if I do another one, we're definitely not using this guy, because I'm pretty sure all the people that had problems wouldn't come back if they realized I did that. So we'll definitely have to sort something else out.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and that's definitely one of the big learning curves. I think not just your first event of this style, but as well sometimes first event for being a promoter. There's a lot of decisions I've made in my professional career when we're working on website builds, where it's like I choose to go one path for X, and then that turns out to be, unfortunately, a huge mistake. And so you kind of have to backtrack and reassess and then figure out what path to go next. So, I mean, that's why you test things. So it's glad that you at least kind of see where there could be an issue and how to possibly make it better in the future. And that's what it's about. So speaking of the future, though, what does the future look like? I think you pulled in a lot of interests. I don't know, like, did I want to race it? Absolutely. Is it going to cause me to drive from Texas to Union, South Carolina? Probably not. But I have so much interest in this, and I know that if I was, within a 10-hour drive or an 8-hour drive, that this would probably be something that I'd be willing to drive to for the weekend, because it's something that I can't get right now in Texas. So I think there's a future for more of this, but I want to know what you think. Is it too soon? Do you have ideas? Like, what's your brain doing?
No, I definitely want to do more. And Saturday evening, I might not have said the same answer. And, Sunday evening, I was kind of up in the air on it too. But
you were like, Krista, you're driving home. I'm drunk. If I'm not drunk, I'm getting drunk. Damn it.
No, Sunday night I was picking up stakes, man, and pulling down miles and miles and miles of track tape. So that doesn't help.
Well, that's when you just get a Camelback with some Crown and Coke in that bad boy, and you just.
Oh, we had a cooler in the Razor. Don't worry.
There you go.
Yeah, man, I got home and I started looking, and I mean, maybe there was a couple people that didn't have fun or didn't like it or whatever. But dude, I got so many positive comments that it just completely blows my mind, and it makes me want to do another one. Just, I don't know, like, I don't know why, if I'm a people pleaser or what, but, and it, it doesn't have anything to do with the money or anything like that. It's just, it was so cool to see people just enjoying themselves riding. And, yeah, so I think we'll do more for sure. Like last night we had Caleb and Charlie and Josh were all over here at our house, and we talked about it a bunch. And, I'm like, be honest with me. You don't have to blow smoke. Like, we're all like, we're friends. If you thought it sucked, you don't have to tell me you liked it. Like, I want to know, because I want to make it better, and I couldn't get anything negative out of these guys. So, and it was the same, I'm getting emails all day because we're having problems with scoring. And the first thing is, like, everybody says, dude, I had an awesome time, and I hate emailing you about this, but can you tell me what's going on with the scoring? Like, please do another one. Don't let this deter you. So yeah, I think I'm going to do more. I don't know how many. I don't know when for sure, but yeah, we'll do more for sure.
It'd be cool now, I think, to use the media coverage that you've been getting. I mean, Mark Correa was able to come out. And it got in Cycle News. I mean, so you're going to get some good media coverage for this kind of stuff. People are going to learn about it
Yeah.
and see about it. I think now's the time to have some tentative dates and tentative locations thrown out. Like, even if it's just like 2015, there's just one. It's not a series. It's not a 3-part whatever. It's just like, you know what? It was fun. I can't commit to more than just one right now. Let's plan the one, and if more circulate because of it, awesome. But like, while the iron is, while the iron's hot, if you will, kind of be like, this is when it's happening. You guys start prepping and get your calendar ready now.
Yeah, well, we just went to dinner with one of my friends that came and helped, and we had this exact conversation.
And they wanted to shoot you. They were like, hell no.
No, yeah, maybe, but you know how it is, man. Like,
Oh yeah.
I sit at a computer all day. You do too, right? So
Yep.
like, you get out and it's pretty nice to just like be out doing stuff, like, I don't know, man work kind of stuff, like
Blue
it's
line
tiring
kind of
and
stuff. None of that pink line
right,
shit.
yeah, no pink line shit, that's for sure. So yeah, so like, I think that was the thing, is like, besides my father-in-law and my brother-in-law that do construction and excavating and stuff, all of us do desk jobs, or so a lot of us that were loving that shit, so none of my friends, they weren't too pissed. But then like my brother-in-law builds gas well locations, and it's like boring shit. So he was so pumped to be working on a dirt bike track. So
Yeah.
I think I got them all suckered in. They'll come do it again. So
Nice.
but
Yeah, I know what you're
yeah,
saying.
I mean,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
but what I was saying was, we were having this exact conversation where I need to make a decision pretty quickly about what we're going to do and when we're going to do it. And I have a pretty good idea if I can convince Krista that we're going to do more of what exactly I want to do. And not that this is a completely original idea on my part, because obviously they've been doing it all over the world for a lot longer, but I halfway don't want somebody to swoop me, like, I laid the ground. Like, the J-Day one was first, and there's been some other ones and stuff, but I feel like we pulled a pretty good pro field, and I don't think anybody's going to get the media coverage that we're going to get. And I don't want somebody to just kind of take the ball that I got rolling and swoop me and do a whole bunch of them next year or something. But so if I'm going to do more, I'll let people know here in the next few days exactly what the plan's going to be. And I have a pretty good idea what it would be. So I don't know if I want to, like, I'm not trying to be secretive, but I don't want to get divorced either. So
It's very, very understandable. If I had any advice, don't do what I did this year and plan the biggest trip of the year that spans over your wedding anniversary. That's just not a good idea. So that's all
Yeah.
I've got. Jesse Peters is in the chat room. He had a couple questions. Turns out he is a J-Day racer, actually, so he had 2 questions. His first one was, did anything about the other sprint enduros in the U.S. inspire you to change anything or maybe make decisions on, to do something different? And then again, he actually makes a comment that he attended the J-Day Sprint Enduro and, where they had the one-day multi-run setup. He's like, do you think that there's, one way or the other to do, the Sprint Enduros?
Let me think about this. I'd say the way that the J-Day did their starts made me second guess the way I was doing my starts, where they had like juniors or youth or whatever in the morning, and then novice riders and stuff in the middle of the day, and then pro riders later in the afternoon. I definitely kind of was second guessing my decision to do it the way we did, where it's like pros started, then A's, then B's, then C's all at the same time. I definitely thought about that a little bit, and but I know John did 3 tests with, like extreme test, a cross test, and an enduro test. I definitely knew there was no way in hell I was doing 3 tests, because it just seemed like so much work. And I think, now I don't want to speak for him, and I did talk, we've talked about his race. And I know it seemed like it was a little bit more work than he would normally do. So I feel like his cross test, like, I saw the GoPro, I think it was 2.5 minutes or something like that. And I knew I didn't want to do that. Like, I wanted to make, like, I spent so much time making our cross test, because I wanted it to be a real proper cross test and have it be real long, like what you would see at the 6 days or something. Right. So I wanted to make sure our test lengths were good. So I think that was something definitely that And I'm not trying to bag on
Oh
John at
no,
all.
you
So,
guys are
yeah,
just two separate ways to do it. I think that's a big thing, and
right.
I think people want to know, if you saw something that he did that you just wanted to do different, that's okay too. So
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't want to put too much emphasis on it like that either because I had a pretty good idea what I was
right,
gonna do
that's true.
because
Yeah,
I knew I wanted my stuff. I wanted it to be 6 to 8 minutes for the pros to do each test because I knew that that's gonna take somewhere between 9 to 12 or something for the average guy, and that's what I was going for. So, and I think we did a pretty good job of that. Our cross test was somewhere around 5 minutes for the fast guys. I can't remember. I think Caleb Strang and Milner dipped into the 450, like high 450s, and then our enduro test was in the sevens for most of the pro guys, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. But I think when I saw that the GoPro video on the Innovation Off Road from their cross test, and it was a little bit shorter than what I wanted. It kind of reinforced that I was on the like that's what I really wanted to do.
right. Very cool.
But as you want me to talk about the 2 day thing or
Yeah. Why a 2 day? Versus maybe try. It would suck to try to fit all that in one day. You'd be waking up super early, going to bed super late. But yeah, why the 2 day? And then I like the fact that you could race one day or the other. That was cool. But yeah, tell us your thoughts behind that.
um well, to be completely honest, because I didn't feel like doing all this work and just tearing it all down after one day. I mean, I just feel like it was like I knew it was before I even got into it. I knew it was going to be just a shit ton of work. And I just figured if I'm going to set up 2 tests like this, we might as well just run them Saturday and Sunday. And that's what Jaunty does over in England. They run each day is a round.
Right.
So they'll run like 4 or 5 weekends or whatever, and it ends up making an 8 or 10 round series. So that was kind of also in the back of my mind that's what he does, and so but really, I mean, I just I couldn't stand of spending a week to build something and then using it for 8 hours and then just tearing it all back down again. So that's why we went with a 2 day format. Now we sold one day. If people wanted to race for one day, they could pay half the price and race for one day. And we had quite a few people do that on Saturday because there was 2 local races on Sunday.
Yep.
And then like obviously we got a little bit of rain on Sunday, but it like downpoured in other parts of South Carolina, and like one of the local races got canceled. And then so we picked up some other riders that came on Sunday that wanted to do just a one day race too because they didn't come on Saturday. So
Very cool.
so I think that's probably how I think I'd still do it 2 day no matter what. I mean, and it's just so much work, man. I know that makes it harder on some of the people traveling and stuff like that because they got to be there Saturday to race, but I don't know.
No, it makes sense to me for that for sure. Especially because it's not like you own the property. Like you have to travel to the property and set up the property and then travel back home. Like there's a lot involved to do that kind of stuff. So that makes sense.
Right.
So
Yeah.
overall, whatever your goal was to call it a success, do you call it a success?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I call it a success.
You high-fived yourself?
No, but I didn't really have a specific goal. I think there was like some financial goals where I didn't want to like lose my house or something like that, or
Have to sell Macy. All right, you're going home with those
yeah.
people.
Right. So there were small goals like that, and I had goals on rider turnout and spectator turnout, and people being happy with how things went. And I think we missed some, and we hit and knocked some other ones out of the park. So yeah,
Very cool.
I'd say it was a success. Yeah, for sure.
All right. I want to change gears really quick, but before I do that,
I'm scared.
No, you're actually quite safe. I wanted to, before I do that, did you have any last thoughts? I mean, that you wanted to say about the Sprint Enduro that maybe I didn't touch on, or that just are lingering in your brain?
I guess the only thing I would say is that I had the only like hateful comment that I got on all of the stuff that we've done so far was from someone who didn't actually come, who had a smart comment about how long they raced, and it just kind of like it just kind of floored me because I didn't have any complaints from that, and I think maybe that's one of the things that scared people off from coming. And it doesn't matter if it's mine or if it's a J Day or if it's District 34 or whoever puts on a sprint enduro. If you live within driving distance, freaking go, man. Because if they do a halfway decent job setting it up, you're gonna have a blast. And if you ride a 3 mile test as hard as you can for the entire time, you want to break after you're done. You know, we were watching guys shake out arm pump and stuff in the middle of the test because they're just pinning it, you know?
Yeah.
So um, don't don't get scared away by the enduro term, because if enduros aren't your thing, then this is probably something that you're gonna like. And don't get freaked out because you're not gonna put in 3, 4, 6 hours of seat time in a day, because you won't, but you'll be all right with it.
Yeah, you'll have fun because of the fact that I think sometimes we fool ourselves, not the pros, I say us, the amateur guys, including myself. Like when we go do a 2-hour race or maybe a 3-hour GNCC, we fool ourselves into thinking that was 100% or that was
Right.
I was giving it all 3 hours as much as I could give it. When you're like, but when you mentally go, man, this shit's 5 minutes long. I think you got to kind of start to, or maybe you've done it before and you come back and be like, oh, that was 60%. That sucked. And then you go again and you're like, good God, that was intense. Like, I think that's when you really start to see that how much effort it really takes to ride that 5-10 minutes at that real 100%.
Oh, for sure. And that's a thing. Like, I didn't get to watch much on Saturday because I was helping out at the scoring tent, but I rode around on Sunday all day with Rory, and we watched. And you think the guys are going fast at a GNCC or a National Enduro, but it's insane how much faster and how much harder they were riding. Like, I'm sure you saw the video that we posted. I mean, like, there's no letting off. Like, those guys are going so fast. And we were talking last night. It was Jason Wygant was here, and he was asking Strang and Caleb and those guys, like, do you really ride different when you ride one of those things? And Strang was like, yeah, man, you just wedge it the whole time. Like, you just, like, the slang for, like, you just pin it the whole time. Like, not, obviously we can't do that, but that's literally what those guys are doing. I mean, they were freaking holding it wide. And I think that was the coolest part, is like, even you're sitting out there watching, so the C class comes through or the 50 plus class comes through. And these guys, like, they're riding hard, man, like way harder than you'd ever see somebody ride at a GNCC. And I know that's fun because that's what you want to do. You want to ride hard. You want to feel like you're pinning it, even if it's 3 minutes a test slower than the fast guys, you're still going fast, So that's what it's all about. I think it's riding hard for all that time.
All right. So
change gears on me.
Well, I've been giving it some thought, and I'm going to kind of change gears on you, but it's not going to be a complete. So live webcasts. I take it that you realize that this format is a little bit more inducive to a live webcast, and
yeah,
people that know
that's true.
People that know how to broadcast things live on the internet.
If only I knew somebody that knew how to do that, huh?
Well,
Is that what you're getting at?
I don't know. They probably all suck anyway. They're just a bunch of losers. I mean, who really wants to be on the internet? I mean, what the hell? It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I think it'd be
on my television. I don't need the internet.
Yeah,
I can
I know.
watch what I want to watch.
I just talk to people on my phone. Why would I want to talk to them on the internet? I just think that it would be very inducive to a good live webcast.
For sure, man.
The format would have to. It'd have to be a little different, I think, because we'd have to figure out a way. Now, granted, it's not that we don't want to watch the amateurs race. It's just that a lot of times you've got to find a way to kind of concise it down to where you're kind of putting in and you don't want to make it a best of show either, but where you're kind of putting in the best of the best. And so you kind of got to figure out a way to say, okay, cool, we're going to showcase the pros at these times so that we can then make this show work for this, for that racing. But
yeah.
I don't know. we'd have to look at your format a little bit and see how that would work. But it would be the toughest thing is getting internet coverage. And that's the one with the GNCC guys. They own a satellite. They have that satellite dish, and that is the goal. I mean, that's the holy grail right there. Because then when you're literally at that point like 96% positive, you go to any location, you're going to be able to have signal. That's the big part. But is any of that live webcast kind of idea or a little bit more live coverage been in the back of your mind about this format at all?
Yeah, for sure. And had a very broad general conversation with some of the guys at Racer TV about it. And it was just wasn't able to, we weren't able to make it happen this year. But this between if you watch something like this live and watching a GNCC live, and I mean logistically what they do at the GNCCs is just insane. Yeah, that they can even really. I mean, you worked one before, so that they even like make it happen is like kind of pretty impressive. Yeah. So yeah. So like if we do this, you could film the pros while they ride the first test, and you have that reset. And if everything goes correctly, the reset, you could, as soon as the last pro's finishing the first test, the first pro's getting ready to take off the second test, and it would be almost seamless. So yeah, I mean, it would be amazing. But yeah, I think it would be awesome if we could do it. But I mean, the satellite time, let alone the production. So I don't know if it'll happen next year, but
maybe
it'd be pretty cool if it happens sometime.
Maybe I need
if they want to do it pro bono, then I'm down.
Right. So we'll figure it out. But no, if nothing else, next time you guys have a roundtable with Josh, Charlie, Caleb, and Wygant, then maybe I need to come over. I need to fly up there so we can hash about that kind of stuff too.
You could have came. Had some cupcakes last night. It's good.
I like some frosting. Well, cool, man. Well, we've hit an hour. I'm not surprised that we bullshitted about this for an hour. I'm very interested in this kind of stuff. Not just as a racer, but because I think it's interesting that this is your first event promoting, and there's so much stuff to learn doing this kind of stuff, having talked with Mark Cook and other promoters here on the show. So congrats. I think it was a success from the outside looking in. I didn't race it. I wasn't
that's all
there.
That matters.
Yeah, I wasn't there in the midst of, oh my God, my scoring or whatever, but it looked like a great success, and it looked like everybody had fun. Everybody online was super positive while we were posting about it. So I think we're good.
Cool. Well, that's good.
Yeah. I'm excited. It'll be fun. Well, dude.
You're getting me excited now, man.
Yeah. You're like, fuck yeah, it's going to be next weekend. Let's do it. Wow.
Did you watch the video?
Oh, yeah.
That Rob did?
Oh, yeah. I know it
was sick, right? Like,
yeah. You could tell that he's been thinking about ideas for video for a long time, because he did a really good job. But he didn't put in too much. He brought in some new stuff to his editing style, which that's what I mean, like stuff that he's been thinking about putting into his edits. So I liked it.
Yeah, dude. I've been watching it I don't know. I watch it 5 times today.
Not
just the intro when I'm on screen, but the action, because I didn't get to see a whole ton of it.
Right.
Dude, I was jazzed, man. I love that shit.
I loved it when Caleb Russell, Charlie, all the pros. I mean, it was like when they would come in the cross test, and they would come into the turns, and you could kind of hear them start to shut off. And then when they would come out, it was right when they start to get on the throttle, and you start to hear them go through the gears, and those bikes just sound so blue line, bro. They are just so manly. It was ridiculous. I was just like, oh my gosh. They just sound, it's like NASCAR. Like when you hear those cars, you're just like, holy shit. That's the way I felt when I heard those guys coming out of those cross turns. It was pretty intense.
Yeah, it was good. I'm gonna get Rob to. I'm gonna see if I can't talk him into making another edit. I know he's got more footage than that, so we'll see if we can't make maybe a one with amateurs or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, but blooper reel.
I like amateur video, so.
Yeah, that's because we like seeing video of ourselves. The amateurs. What up? It's been a while since you've been to Loretta's, bro. It's been a while. Well, cool, Mr. Hooper. We appreciate you taking the time to come on here.
Well, thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, and congrats, and I say as well, thanks.
Like, how many people have been on the show more than me?
Brad Bakken's actually been on quite a few times, but you were on you were on a lot the first couple years, and we had a good hiatus, and then I guess like 2 or 3 times this year, and then like once or twice.
I think we need to have like a list going.
We did when we did the 100th episode. We had a list of who had been on the most, and Brad Bakken was at the time. But now we're at 145, so I would have to do a lot of math. So
you don't have anything else going on. So
that's true.
Just do it.
F it. My kids, they can go hungry. I'm not going to work. I'm figuring out who's on seat time. Those jerks.
That sounds like a Jared Bolton project.
Oh, if that redheaded ginger's listening, I will give you $5 to figure it out.
He's got a girlfriend now, so it probably won't happen.
Yeah, his left hand.
Yeah. No, he's living with a girl, and he was supposed to come down and help and shit, but he ended up. So I think that
they used up their condom stash and decided to go shopping for more, opposed to come to your sprint enduro. We'll see.
We're going downhill quickly here.
It is. That's how it always is when we try to wrap this shit up. So, good job, and thank you for helping make our industry better and the scene, if you will. I think anything like this is just going to push people to make better races. They're going to push people to make better promotions and make us get out there and ride more. So, thank you for that. And just keep us up to date as everything kind of comes together, and we would like to know when the date for the next one is.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Thanks for having me on, and it's been fun.
All right, dude. Take it easy. We'll chat soon. Bye, Jason Hooper. Awesome. So, again, I kind of thought we might have about a 45-minute show because I knew that Jason and I would do a good job talking about this. But the fact that we made it to an hour really surprises me. I feel like it was really good content. I hope that you guys do as well. I can see that Frank is on the love sack in the living room right now. And if my wife were downstairs, I realize that she would be super pissed right now. So I'm going to, once this is over, that's what I'm going to go do. I'm going to go get Frank off of the love sack. But so this has been Seat Time, episode 145 for you guys. We've been talking with Jason Hooper about his Kenda full gas sprint enduro that he put on this past weekend at the Big Buck property in Union, South Carolina. It looked like a success. Yes, I want to go. Yes, I hope there's another one. I even have some thoughts on things that I might do different, good, bad, or whatever, but that's just, that's what it is. We'll see if those come to fruition. Look for a sprint enduro in Texas in 2015. I do know that somebody has one in the works, so it could be fun, could be different, a good way to come down south and have a good time. So Seat Time, seattime.co is the website. We do archive everything there. Of course, you can find us on Facebook. Oh, look, Tam came down and found Frank. Sorry, Frank. I wish you had a camera for that because that was great timing. Twitter.com /seattime_CO. We are on Instagram. It's just regular old Seat Time. You can search for that. Of course, YouTube is where you can subscribe and find the videos. Go look for the SP time-lapse video. Super, super cool. Steven did a great job editing that. We've got the helmet cam footage is going to be coming up later this week, and then in the next 2 to 3 weeks, probably 3 or 4 to be honest, we'll have the actual off-the-couch episode done of Woody Navigates the Baja Rally, so pay attention for that. You can know about all that shit if you just subscribe to us on YouTube. Makes it a lot easier. We did not get a chance to talk about our sponsors too much this episode, but again, Fly Racing. You need to go check them out. 2015 gear is out. It's looking fly, if you will. Super, super good stuff. FlyRacing.com. Stillwell Performance at stillwellperformance.com. If you didn't listen to the Ask Alan Anything episode, 1, you need to go listen to that, and 2, the snippet that he talks about the 4CS forks and why they have so much issues and why it's so hard to actually valve them correctly and get the oil to work properly through the fork. Very, very interesting. It's about 11 minutes long. It's worth it even if you just pull it up and listen to it. Even the guys at Dirt Rider have actually listened to it and said, holy crap, that guy knows what he's talking about. And he does. It's really interesting. So stillwellperformance.com, you can go and email them and say, hey, Brian at Seat Time was telling me that you know a lot about suspension and might be able to help make my squishy better or make my squishy suck less. And then he's going to tell you why. Of course, the guys over at Fast Company, if you're looking for some of the best handlebars out there, flex bars. No, they're not just for old dudes, and they're not just for off-road riders. They really do help take the vibration away. They help with arm pump. They help with hand vibration, with blisters, all that good stuff. So you can check them out, fastco.com. We thank all of them for their support. This has been so much fun. So episode 145, we'll be back next week. We're going to start talking about some of the stuff that's coming up, maybe some people on new teams, maybe people in new positions, maybe people not on any teams, and we're going to see how it's going. We're going to have our third Endurocross race in a row without a live webcast coming up. I hope you guys have not enjoyed that as much as I've not enjoyed being able to watch it live. Seattime.co. Tune in next Tuesday for another live episode. Remember, have fun out there, and always, always, always enjoy a pint full of awesome. Peace.